What you're about to hear feels like one of those nights when Los Angeles decides the tempo of the league again. Clean, audacious, and perfectly timed. Because while the headlines are busy elsewhere, the conversations that matter have pivoted toward a single idea. If the Lakers want to stop borrowing offense and start owning it, the path runs through a 6-7 point guard who turns half-courts into playgrounds and bigs into runway lights. I'm talking about LaMelo Ball as a real, testable pursuit, not a fantasy, and I'm going to show you why the logic is louder than the noise, how the contract math can be navigated, what the on-court ecosystem would look like next to Anthony Davis, and where the risk lines are drawn so we don't fall in love with a highlight and ignore the calendar. Stay with me because I'll build this from the floor up and keep every step grounded in recent, verifiable movement around the player, the market, and the rules we have to live under in 2025-26. And only no-nonsense hoops talk from here on out. This community thinks the game, and I'm talking to you like we're walking out of the tunnel together. First, the player and the reality. LaMelo Ball is not a rumor invention. He's a top-end advantage creator on a designated rookie max that locks his prime in one place, unless somebody pays in capital and vision. That matters because the league has quietly shifted from stacking mid-tier guards to privileging primary engines who can drive pace, flatten switches, and feed a star big without choking the clock. And that's exactly the lane where the Lakers need to be ruthless. The last few seasons taught us a harsh truth. When the offense stalls, we lean on elite shot-making to paper over structural gaps, and that isn't sustainable across 4 playoff rounds. A healthy LaMelo changes the conversation. He tilts defenses with live dribble velocity. He manipulates tags to give Davis cleaner lob windows than we've seen since peak two-man chemistry. He drags the weak side low man a half step further with skip timing. And he pushes early offense so our wings arrive at the arc in rhythm instead of arriving at the nail late and guarded. This isn't just more flair, it's more high-percentage looks before the defense loads, floaters and lobs in the pocket, slot threes on inside-out kicks, and the quiet points that separate a 5-point win from a 5-point loss in January when your legs are heavy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Availability is a stat and so is money. Absolutely. And that's why we evaluate this like grown-ups. LaMelo's recent injury timeline is documented. The surgeries were real, and the Hornets' decision to shut him down late last season was a franchise-level choice for the long term. Fast forward to now, he's back on the floor. He's producing again. He's in the news cycle for the right and wrong reasons, and that volatility is exactly why the window exists. A club living outside the top tier can afford to ride those waves. A club with the Lakers' ambitions has to price it. That means asking 2 brutal questions at once. How many wins does his creation add above a replacement-level lead guard in a West that punishes predictability? And what is the downside cost if the ankle flares or the rhythm dips? My answer is that the ceiling outcome, an offense that runs with pace without coughing the ball, a big who finally gets fed in stride instead of in a crowd, and shooters who stop living on emergency heaves, is worth paying for if the acquisition cost is starter-level talent plus future control rather than depth crater plus handcuffs, and that brings us to structure. The market context matters. It's not just that Ball is good, it's that he's good in a specific way that Los Angeles lacks, on-ball creation that doesn't slow the game, passing that punishes both the tagger and the denial, pull-up gravity that forces the big to play higher, and breakneck transition reads that turn long rebounds into 2-on-1s, with Davis anchoring the backline and the short roll. The fit sings, empty corner pick and rolls where LaMelo strings out the big and throws the late pocket pass. Spain looks where his release point clears the backside for a quick corner 3. Chicago action that morphs into a ghost screen when defenses top-block the first action, and most importantly, fewer dead possessions. If you followed our playoff exits, you know exactly where those possessions live. Late clock, left slot, over dribble, contested pull-up. That's where a true engine earns his paycheck. The other side is defense, and I won't pretend the tape is perfect. The fix is scheme and personnel. Surround him with 2 switchable wings. Keep Davis closer to the nail to erase middle. and live in a shell that prioritizes finish-of-play control, box-outs, and tag-and-release discipline over gambling. LaMelo at 6'7", with active hands in passing lanes, is not a hopeless defender. He's a system defender who needs rules and talk behind him. And with Davis quarterbacking the back line, you can live with the occasional point-of-attack slippage if the offense saves your legs and lets you set your defense more often. That's the exchange. Money time. The designated rookie max is heavy, the trade kicker is a real line item, and the second apron shackles exist. But there's a difference between can't and can't unless, and we're in the latter. You don't do this with fantasy land piles of minimums. Under the current rules, you build a legal, balanced construction that sends out real salaries in clean shapes, respects the non-aggregation lines for teams over the line, and doesn't let a kicker tip you into unworkable math. Is that tight? Yes. Is it impossible? No. It requires choosing a centerpiece outbound. The league has mocked up deals around Austin Reeves before, adding a matching salary frame without choking future flexibility, and attaching draft control at a tier that signals seriousness without emptying the cupboard. The Lakers' future pick ledger is no longer scorched earth. You can create an offer with a premium first and a swap structure. Hold on to just enough runway for a second move, and still present something Charlotte has to answer. The Hornets' leverage is his years of control. The Lakers' leverage is the player development track record with stars, the market size, and the fact that you give Ball a running mate in AD who actually converts high-level reads into elite shots. Why would Charlotte listen? Because organizations at a crossroads tend to revisit every assumption when the season bends the wrong way. If the internal decision becomes build fully around Brandon Miller's development curve, future picks, and clean books, then the calculus shifts. Taking a legitimate haul for a star guard with real surgery history can be framed as stabilizing, not surrendering. For the Lakers, the why is simple. Maximize Davis's prime, stabilize the nightly offense so you aren't asking for miracles, and lay a foundation that survives whatever comes next July. Remember, the real stress test is not October headlines. It's the middle 20 games of winter when you win with shape and habits. And LaMelo's engine gives you a shape you can ride, 95th percentile hit-ahead vision for cheap points, second-side triggers that don't die at first contact, and the kind of late-clock bailout that comes from passing windows, not hero dribbles. On the court, the rotations get clearer. First unit leans into Ball AD synergy with one downhill wing and one spacer who relocates with intent. Second unit keeps a real ball handler on the floor at all times, either staggering LaMelo to cook against bench lineups or pairing him with a second creator who hunts second side. Advantages while he bends the shell. That double-engine concept is how you protect yourself in the West, where every night throws a different coverage. Ice one night, switch everything the next, and your offense can't rely on perfect shooting to stay organized. The added benefit is foul pressure. LaMelo's knack for getting into the deep paint without obvious speed makes big swipe, and AD at the stripe when teams are in the penalty changes the math late. Let's get granular on actions I expect to see instantly. Horns entries where LaMelo hits the elbow and cut-throughs to the weak side dunker, opening a three-man game between Davis at the elbow, a 45 cutting wing, and the slot spacer. Angle pick and roll to his right to favor the one-hand live dribble sling to the left corner. If the low man tags, it's a corner three. If he doesn't, it's a dunk. Spain with a ghost back screen to punish teams that pre-switch. LaMelo's release point and height let him float a pass over the scram with less turnover risk. And my favorite, the early 77 empty corner action where AD screens high, LaMelo snakes back into the middle and forces the weak side X out, which he reads early and skips before the rotation is set. Those are not YouTube plays, they're series winners when defenses know your playbook and you still get the look. Risks? There are three I have to say out loud. 1. Health variance. Ankle and wrist histories don't vanish because you want them to. 2. Cost. If the outgoing package bleeds both ball handling and two-way wings, you fix one problem and open another. 3. Apron gravity. Stack too much money without surgical precision, and you'll feel it next summer when you need to add a role player and can't. That's why any Lakers offer has to be disciplined. One blue chip outgoing, one matching salary piece that still plays, one pick at the right tier, and defensive size coming back from a third team if needed to keep you whole on the wing. Build it like a contender, not a collector. Identity check. Would LaMelo's aesthetic clash with the Lakers' gravitas? Not if he plays winning basketball. Watch how pace with purpose changes reputations. Hit ahead for a layup, spray to a shooter's laces, short roll to a big who catches on the move. Those are grown man plays. And with Davis anchoring, the defensive standards stay the standard. Give me a guard who'll take the first hit, stunt at the nail, and then run. And I'll take care of the rest with scheme and personnel. LaMelo doesn't have to be Drew Holiday on the ball. He has to be connected enough to keep the system intact. If the offense lifts your floor, your defense gets to set more often, and our best defender, AD, gets to defend more plays that start 5-on-5 instead of 4-on-5 after a live ball turnover. That's the loop. The rumor ecosystem isn't the story, but it matters in one way. Serious outlets have already mocked up Lakers' LaMelo frameworks this year, not as clicks, but as cap legal templates that other teams would actually read. And when that happens repeatedly, it means intel people aren't laughing it out of rooms. Combine that with the persistent sense that Charlotte's long game might prioritize Miller, picks, and a reset of the injury narrative, and you understand why agents and execs keep LA in these conversations. It's not done, it's not close, but it's more than a tweet. So where does this land if Rob Pelinka calls tonight? My take. You pursue aggressively if three conditions are met. 1, the medicals are clean and the recovery profile aligns with high-minute loads by March. 2, the price preserves at least one switchable wing and doesn't strip your ability to make a second move at the margin. 3, you get enough draft control back the other way, or keep enough, to pivot next July if another star wing becomes attainable. That's how you avoid being loud in January and empty in June. And yes, I'm fully aware that this would likely cost a fan favorite and future capital. But the job is to choose the version of the Lakers that wins in the middle minutes without asking a 40-year-old legend to be a fireworks show every night. For me, LaMelo is one of the few available talents whose playmaking actually reshapes how we score, not just how we feel. Let me be crystal clear in one line so you can clip it. A disciplined, cap-smart push for LaMelo Ball is the most coherent way to maximize Anthony Davis's next 2 seasons while building an offense that breathes on its own. It's risky, yes, but the upside is a team that stops begging for perfect shot-making and starts manufacturing points with process. And that's how you shift from hoping for breaks to forcing them. I'll close with this, and then it's your turn. The principal analysis is that the Lakers should be in on LaMelo if the medicals check and the Hornets open the door at a price that keeps us whole on the wing. The on-court fit is obvious. The cap work is difficult but doable. And the payoff is an identity that wins Tuesdays in February and travels to May. Drop your read below. Would you move a premium piece and a first for LaMelo if the contract math works? Or do you hold the line, keep your depth, and wait for a two-way wing instead? Be specific about packages, rotations, and how you deploy him next to AD. I'm reading everything. I'll bring the sharpest frameworks on air. And if you want these breakdowns, the second they're ready, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay close. This is Lakers News Fan Report, and we don't chase smoke, we hunt the fire.